The next subject matter is the hemp feed issue, and this is becoming a really hot topic in Indiana specifically. We're very excited. We have Mark Boyer and the Treach Farms back here in the corner are both participating in that. So what I'd like to do is introduce Jessica Scott. Jessica was Executive Director of INHIA and has been active in all things hemp in Indiana through her own work, through volunteering, and through Real Hemp. And I'm going to let her introduce her panel members to you. And we're really excited about what hemp feed can bring to these end users.
Hello everybody, we're really excited to talk about hemp as animal feed today, especially because this is a market that does not revolve around CBD right now, unless you're referring to a medicated feed, which the Hemp Feed Coalition is not tackling right now. So when we talk about hemp feed, we are talking about the use of the grain crop or potentially a fiber crop, doing some studies there. We are not talking about utilizing the CBD crop. So with that said, my name is Jessica Scott. I'm Regional Director of the Hemp Feed Coalition. Up here with me today, we have Bob Geiger, who is AFCO President, and we have Ethan Vorhes, who is also a Director on the Hemp Feed Coalition. Touching all the buttons I know how to touch. Okay, so I will give you a brief overview of how the Hemp Feed Coalition came to form, and then I will pass it off to Bob to go over regulatory. I know that's where a lot of specific questions lie. And then Ethan will talk a little bit about the progress that the Hemp Feed Coalition has made over the past year, the partnerships we've established, and what sort of studies go on. So currently, hemp feed products are not approved by AFCO or the FDA. You may go into your local store and see predominantly CBD products, but even products infused with hemp seed oil, those are not approved. Just because it's on a shelf in a store and it's not being taken off the shelf for some reason does not mean it's legal or approved, so remember that. Large-scale production will require us to explore new markets for hemp. Back in 2017, the Hemp Feed Coalition actually originated as a steering committee in Colorado. This group of stakeholders understood the importance of opening up this market for our farmers and for our retailers, and they started reaching out to other groups throughout the United States to form the Hemp Feed Coalition. So that's how I came on board, that's how Ethan came on board, and we got Bob involved over this past year. The stakeholder group was very diverse, as I said. Some research has already been done before we united under the Hemp Feed Coalition. It's important to know that the Hemp Feed Coalition does not engage in doing research as an organization. What we do is we empower research groups that are interested in dedicating resources to this. We connect with farmers that have access to the resources to conduct studies, and we connect with universities to bridge those gaps. We recently have also tied the knot on securing funding for different projects. So we initiated an initial proposal program where you submit a research proposal, we represent that to our funders, and we can inject funding into different feed research trials that need done. Something else that's very important to know is that being united in your research will allow you to do multiple things. It will allow us as an industry to not recreate the wheel and duplicate research that does not need duplicated. It will allow us to look at past research that's been done. That's a question I get a lot is, weren't we feeding this to animals a long time ago when we were already growing it? Why can't we use that research? We can to an extent for different things, but we, in general, mostly have to redo all of the research that was done. Or I get the question globally, hasn't this been looked at globally? The FDA likes USA-led research. So we really are starting at square one. It's very important if you have the resources and you're interested in being a part of this, that you connect with us and reach out, and we can inject funding, connect the dots, get you hooked in with Purdue University or the other appropriate university. So with that, I would like Bob to come up and talk about the regulatory overview, so why this is currently not approved, the pathways to approval. I've got in 2 slides that you can look at. The pathways to approval, that's another question that's really big, and we can expand upon that for you.
I got my own slides, that's okay.
Did you email them to Michelle?
She already loaded it on there
Okay.
this morning.
All right, go ahead.
Get out of that then. Or put it there.
Is this yours?
No.
This
That's
one?
one.
Okay, great.
All right.
Okay, introducing Bob Geiger.
Good morning. I'm Bob Geiger, and I am the Animal Feed Administrator with the Office of the Indiana State Chemist and work under Dr. Waltz. And I'm also the 2019 President of the Association of American Feed Control Officials, better known as AFCO. And what I'd like to do this morning, I'm going to get us back up on time, because hemp or any hemp product is not approved for use in any animal feed. Are there any questions? Okay. As I was putting this together, oh, wait a minute now. My wife called me and told me I had to stop at the grocery and bring some things home for dinner that night. So I thought maybe that would be the best way to explain this. So I make my list and I'm off to the grocery store. I go through the produce section. Of course, there we needed limes and lemons and we needed lettuce. Then I turn the corner and we go down, we needed spaghetti and macaroni and we needed some tea and we needed some more of these things. Go around the corner and we need breakfast cereal. And of course, if you can find the all Crunch Berry cereal, it's 1 box up here in the corner. That's my favorite. Then I go around the corner and I get my snacks. We got potato chips or Oreo cookies, and my cart's getting pretty full and I'm heading to the checkout. As I do, I pass this thing on the way out called the pharmacy. And I think, there's nothing there that I regulate. Everything in my cart is food. That's what I regulate for animals, is food. I don't regulate drugs. And as I proceed to the checkout, I notice this section, health and nutrition, and all these products associated with this. And this is where we get into some concerns, where we have to be able to separate foods from other health products. Animal food, it's defined by the Indiana Commercial Feed Law. It's defined in the Model Feed Bill from AFCO, and 49 states have feed law that define commercial feed. It specifies the parameters of what may be included as an ingredient. You just can't put anything in there you want. It's nutrition-based. It's going to provide protein, energy, fat, minerals, vitamins. And the Federal Food and Drugs Act defines food for man and other animals. The FDA makes no distinction between the term food and feed. It's all food under the FD&C. So, as Jessica mentioned, you go to your big pet store and you see all these pet foods here and you see all these products. Some of them have hemp seed oil in them, some of them have CBD oil in them. How can that be if nothing's approved for use in animal feeds? When you look at an ingredient, it has to be approved in order to be able to be placed into the product. That can go through a food additive or a feed additive petition through the Food and Drug Administration. Very lengthy process, very legal process. Basically, you make your submission to the FDA. They send back, said you didn't do all this stuff, So you do all that stuff and send it back in, and they send it back and say, you need to do this, or this T wasn't crossed and this I wasn't dotted, so you need to do that. It can be a very time-consuming process. So there's another process to get animal food ingredients approved, and that's through AFCO, and that's the association I'm president of. We still go through the federal approval process, but now you have an advocate to help you through that process. AFCO maintains a team of investigators for different products. People that deal with vitamin products are different than those that deal with minerals. So we maintain investigators. They know what has to be submitted to FDA. They know what FDA is looking at. And they also know how to define a product. So the AFCO process really provides an ally for you to get your products approved. The third parameter is GRAS, generally recognized as safe. If you look, you will not find in the Code of Federal Regulations or Indiana law or AFCO law the definition of peanut butter. Everybody knows what peanut butter is. Peanut butter has been used for years, and years. So there's no need to really define it. The other thing to keep in mind, it can only be used for its intended and approved uses. Oregano is approved as a spice in animal food. Several years ago, there was a lead by the swine industry that oregano may show some antimicrobial products in the feed, and so they were putting large doses of it in the feed. They couldn't do that. It wasn't approved for that use. It was only approved as a spice or flavoring. Hemp seed for dogs. Most commercial feed laws exempt whole seeds. So if you're selling hemp seed, and that's all you're selling, it doesn't fall under my commercial feed law. You can sell corn. Corn doesn't fall under my commercial feed law until you mix it into a feed or until you make feed claims. So if you have a product out there and it says hemp seed for dogs, that's a feed. If it says hemp seed, it's not a feed. So most state feed laws, the AFCO model bill exempt whole, unmixed, unprocessed seeds as being exempt from their law. So I'd just like to take a look at some products that we found out there and go through and see some of the problems it forces on us and how to avoid some of them. You'll see the word here, treat. Treat is a defined term. It's a defined pet food term. So if you're going to call anything a treat, that's a pet food. Don't use the word treat. This says CBD dog treats. I can tell you right now, FDA in the animal food world considers CBD a drug. This would be a medicated feed. Under our law, CBD is not approved for use in animal feed. This is a treat. Looks like a dog biscuit, flavored like a dog biscuit, must be a dog biscuit, which is a dog treat. Let's look at these two products. Again here, the one on the left says dog treats. That's a food. If we look on the one on the other side, it's labeled a little differently. What's the product intended for? Is it intended to supply nutrition to the animal? It doesn't say anything about that. It's intended for stress and anxiety relief. But it looks like a dog treat. People picking this up would consider this a dog treat. Let's look at these two products. Premium hemp oil. One thing that we run into constantly is, what's hemp oil? Is it hemp seed oil? Is it CBD oil? What's the particular product? And what's the use for it? If you notice the one on the right, the CBD oil, it's for calming purposes. Mentions nothing about nutrition. Justin mentioned earlier that the FDA gets concerned about some of these concerns, and if you notice in the upper left-hand corner, hemp seeds have been found to help with certain cancers. If you make those kind of claims in your labeling, your product's going to get stopped sold, and the FDA is going to issue a warning letter. That's taking it too far as they're concerned. With 1,000 of products on the market, there's no way that they can regulate all of them. So if the ones with the egregious label claims, those are the ones they're going after first. Let's look at this one. How do we make sense of all this? I mentioned intended purpose. If you're feeding the food, that falls under my law. If you're feeding the supplement for health, for calming, it doesn't fall under my law. There is an association called the National Animal Supplement Council that has hemp products on the market, and they make very clear that their intended purpose is not food. They work very closely with AFCO. We attend their meetings and they attend ours. So products can be labeled out there for use in animals that are not food. Notice this product is a calming product. It's not mentioning nutrition. Adding to your pet's diet. What you do with the products you purchase and add to your pet's diet is up to you. It's up to me. I supplement my pet's diet with different things. We do vitamin and mineral supplements, and that's all up to us. So with that, are there any questions? Good. Not yet.
We'll switch back over to the Hemp Feed Coalition's presentation, and so Bob just gave a wonderful regulatory overview. He explained our ingredient approval pathways, and the Hemp Feed Coalition has been fast-tracked by the FDA, and we are in frequent communication with the FDA, and we have engaged a group called the Burdock Group, which is representing us in those communications. We have chosen to strengthen our relationship with AFCO. Bob is on all of our conference calls. He's a fantastic supporter and a wealth of knowledge. And we are suggesting and recommending to different initiatives that we support that they go through the AFCO pathway rather than going straight to the FDA. So I'll have Ethan come up here and do an update on where we're at so far in 2019, what we're looking forward to in 2020. And then I'll round us out. I would like to talk about the Indiana projects that are going on. We have had some research already done in the works now with local farms here. And then we can open it for just general questions after that.
I don't think this is quite where I was wanting to start here.
Use the arrow.
So I think I'm off a little bit here in our slides, but what I would say is there's a focus on the grain, and the grain is where when we came to the study group, it's not part of the CSA, it's not regulated by the DEA, and so when we came with the FDA, there's a lot of peer-reviewed research around the hemp seed by comparison to the flower or any other parts of the plant. And so it seemed like a really good place to start.
I think that's the wrong presentation.
Yeah, I think that's what's happened here.
Yeah.
You want to do me a
Yes.
favor and get it back up?
Apologies for the technical difficulties here. User error. No,
Oh,
it's
that's all right. I'm sure glad we had you.
okay. It is this presentation. I'm also a Mac user, so I'm a little... No, I'm here.
There you go, back on.
Here we go. Yep, here we go.
And so at this time, the FDA was enthusiastic about approving seed and seed byproducts petitions. So it was kind of loosely during the study group. You didn't understand what was all going on until we kind of concluded it, and I think the recommendation come out as that we should work together. We should form a coalition, and no one state should run out and kind of try to approve this and use it. But really our goals were to create new markets, and that's what this is going to do. It really improves on being able to provide nutrition and doing it safely. Hemp seed is very nutritious. You're looking at 25 to 30% protein, depending on the product, 10 to 24% fat. Which there is good nutrition, and most animals need that. They're going to need that protein as a supplement, and the vitamins and minerals that are going to come along with it. So we've gathered 14 research proposals from 8 universities, and I feel like that's probably already outdated. And, it's constantly meeting new people that are testing something anecdotally, or there's some preliminary studies happening that we're finding out about. And just as more and more researchers learn, about the Feed Coalition and the potential, they want to get involved. So creating the first feed ingredient definition for hemp seed, and this is something I think that Hunter and the group have been working on, trying to understand what the parameters are, and trying to make them as broad as possible so we can include as many different producers, and processors as possible. And so at this point, we believe the submission to be about 3 to 6 months away. Hemp seed meal as a protein source in egg-laying hens is some studies that are going to be going on here. It seems like one of the first things that we will be able to do. The chicken has a shorter life cycle, and makes it much cheaper to study. And so we have a partner in Wenger Foods who has agreed to do a full life cycle study, and they're working on their research proposals, and we've been urging them to get FDA approval before they go ahead. And so it's not clear exactly what they're going to do, but there's plenty of stuff in the hemp world going on. So we've come about this. We broke into subcommittees. You've got the dog and cat, ingredient production animals, horses, in university. Dog, cat, and horses, are a companion animal, and everything else kind of falls under production animals. If it's a production animal, it's probably going to go into the food supply somewhere. And so we've got an extra level of safety that we need to reach. Collaborated on the submission of the feed additive petition with the FDA for hemp seed oil for dogs and cats. We worked with High Plains Nutrition. We were hoping to have a petition submitted last year even, and because of issues around testing, it's kind of been prolonged, trying to get enough samples, but having labs that can give us good, accurate results from time to time, and that's kind of impeded the process, and our progress. So, I just really look forward to being able to work with AFCO, keeping the momentum going, and connecting researchers and people who want to do the research. So that's who we are and what we've been doing.
Yeah. I will close us out. So before I get into how you can plug in with us, participate, encourage research, maybe get your own project going, I would like to talk about Indiana specifically. So we have quite a few either research trials that have been conducted or we are waiting on data for. So I'll name a few of those. One is with Egg Innovations. So Egg Innovations is a company that deals with laying hens, and they actually back in 2015, 2016, they took it upon themselves to begin studying the use of hemp seed oil for laying hens. That research needs a few holes filled in, and so they have teamed up with us to submit the research that they currently have, and for us to work with them to look at how we can fill those gaps and push that forward, which is fantastic. That's here in Indiana. We also have, if you're familiar with Mark Boyer, if you're a grower here, I'm sure you are, and if not, I'm sure you're also familiar with him. He did a very small feeder pig trial here in Indiana. Those are having a carcass analysis done, and we are actually waiting for that data to come back. Those animals were harvested in October, and so that'll be really exciting. Something that you can do if you're curious about what does this data look like. Jamie and I have talked about, we'll be putting something on the Midwest Hemp Council website where you can go in, get a current update on the state of the United States hemp feed industry, and specifically Indiana, what current trials we have going on, who's conducting them, and we're going to figure out how you'll have access to that data, because I know the Hemp Feed Coalition is open to sharing that data. Okay. Open to sharing the data. Yeah.
Heather or Ethan, can you address anything with like Michigan, Ohio, Illinois? Are there any of our surrounding states in our Midwest region that have some trials going on specifically?
So I know in Wisconsin there are, Illinois as well. We have interest. I know we haven't funded anything, but I can go back and look at our submitted research proposals. Like we said, we received about 14 that we're supporting, but we have room for more. So if you are not from the state, if you're from the Midwest in general, and you would like to submit a research proposal, we are open to that. We actually closed the deadline, but we're keeping it open. So please reach out to us, and we would love to see how we can support your project. Yes.
Thank you for your support. I had a question on the approval process, where we are to maybe actually getting approvals over the goal line.
Mm-hmm.
My understanding is it often takes 3 to 5 years, and we've been at this for a little bit, and I've heard the term fast track with the FDA.
Yes.
So could we quantify a bit of that?
Yes, Bob, do you want to answer this? This is great.
As far as I know, there are no products in front of FDA as of today for a feed additive petition. So that process, technically, the clock has not started yet. The second thing is the AFCO process, you could probably get done in a year to a year and a half. And I know Hunter's working with the investigator in AFCO. They're working on the definition to make sure they get it correct for hemp seed meal. And once that gets done and gets submitted, then it could be available within a year and a half.
That touches on a really important subject that I mentioned, is the Hemp Feed Coalition is not conducting this research, and we are not qualified to submit this research to AFCO or the FDA. That has to be done by a company or another entity that exists within the space. So like Bob said, we don't have anything submitted right now. We are about 6 months away from the dog and cat being submitted, hemp seed oil for companion pets, dog and cats. That does not include equine, correct?
Not that I know of.
No? Okay. So that is about 6 months away from being submitted, and that will historically be the first one. This requires the industry to put in the work, to dedicate the resources, to get the research done, work with us to make sure it's being wholly completed, and then present that. So we can help with funding, we can help with connecting the dots, but we have to have interested universities, growers, and participants to make this happen. And until it does, it's not approved. So please remember that.
And I might just supplement that with saying, like with the chicken stuff, that short life cycle, you're able to complete the actual studies in a short period of time, and then you're still looking at, a year to 2 probably for the regulatory process. If they're just going through the food additive petition and bypass an AFCO altogether. With the timeline that they have, it'd be quicker, but maybe a little more complex. So then when you start to add some of these other animals, depending on when you get your research approved and the life cycle, and if you're targeting for a specific portion of the life cycle for the needs through backgrounding of cattle, for example, that'll change things because your studies will take less time, but there's just a process, and so it's getting approval, getting the studies done, and getting that data submitted and bringing it all together. So it takes time. So if somebody has an interest, it's really time to get going on it.
Yes, hello, hi.
Hi. As a hemp food manufacturer, this is our #1 pain point. The hemp cake oil is upwards of $40 a barrel because we can't attribute any cost or very little cost to the hemp seed cake. So I was wondering, for us, it's really apparent what the why is, but has the Hemp Feed Coalition embarked on any economic impact or market studies to actually articulate what the market opportunity is to push us over the goal line?
So that's a great question, thank you. He asked what the potential market impact is. Has the Hemp Feed Coalition investigated that? So this is something that we discuss quite often, and we have determined currently it's outside of our initial charge. So we are not setting market prices. We're not doing market analysis. We are getting this approved, connecting the dots for research and funding research. That does not mean that we won't get there. There's a big push to extend beyond approval, because essentially right now with the Hemp Feed Coalition, after approval, with our current mission, there's really not, outside of the network that we build, there's not a mission for us any longer. So that's being explored. There is value there. It would probably encourage more participation, I would bet. So it's on the table, but that's not something that we currently are dedicating resources to providing right now.
Well, and I'd jump in and say that Bob could probably tell us that, you know, animal feed is a $1 billion industry, and as we make it available to have a premium protein and give people an ability to brand off of hemp and the regenerative agriculture that, you know, it comes out of, we can create money and revenue for the entire industry, because your seed dealers, your growers, your processors, everybody in that supply chain then is going to benefit from those consumers voting their dollars.
One last question.
Yes.
I'm with Academia. I'm on the director of
Hello.
the Hemp
Thank
Feed
you.
Coalition as well.
Yes.
Whereas the Hemp Feed Coalition doesn't sponsor some of these studies, individuals within the Hemp Feed Coalition, like ourselves, are working with universities to get this stuff done. We're currently working with Colorado State University on a ruminant study to see if we can feed in this case it's a lamb study where we're feeding lambs hemp feed or hemp cake, the protein from that, and then they'll have, I think it's 3 or 4 months to feed this stuff to a bunch of lambs, and then they'll slaughter the lambs and we'll investigate whether there's any problem with CBDs or whatever might be in our hemp cake, just like Chad's hemp cake. And so hopefully those studies will prove that it's okay to feed those animals hemp protein. We're working with Bob and hopefully with AFCO and companies like, or organizations like that, to acknowledge that this protein is a good protein source for animals. And if we could feed in, or if we could support livestock feed in the future, just like Ethan said, that's a $1 billion industry. And so that's how collectively, I would recommend anybody that's interested in this stuff, promoting hemp into either animal feed, livestock feed, dog feed, human feed, you know, to get involved with the Hemp Feed Coalition, because Hemp Feed Coalition is pushing this thing. And if you want to stand on the outside and look in and see what's happening, that's one approach. If you want to get involved and participate, that's a more active way of making this thing happen. So collectively, we can all move forward. There's the CBDs aspect into animal feed, a lot of benefits of that, but that's not been approved. So if that's something you'd like to advocate, once you get involved with the Hemp Feed Coalition or some of these other things and become an active participant, or sit on the outside and wait till everybody else gets the stuff done.
Thank you for that. That's great. So one point that I want to add to that is currently, like you said, CBD is not in the conversation. CBD is actually considered a toxin. A drug. It's considered a drug, and it's a toxicity level within the tested feed. So if you would like to see CBD in animal feed or advocate for anything like that, it's not on the table right now. Like many initiatives, we could not tackle that for legitimacy with the FDA and to maintain reputation. However, that is a conversation that's going on, and I know there are likely a lot of groups and individuals in the room that are interested in that, and that's a conversation that can still be facilitated under the Hemp Feed Coalition. It's just not currently what we are moving forward right now. Okay, thank you.